Hello, and welcome to the YouTube channel 3D Printing for Geoscientists. I am Virginia Tech PhD student Morrison Nolan. One of the great strengths of 3D design is the power to visualize objects and perform rapid prototyping. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to use a tool for that prototyping, namely underlays in reference plane. Sometimes you want to roughly approximate the shape of an object and don't need the exact measurement. You will start to produce the shape of the object, so it'd be nice to have a guide as you do so. Underlays are a great way to provide that guide, so let's demonstrate that. So first, let's give ourselves a new project. Now that we have a new project, we can go to the palette spaces and click on Reference Plane Parameters, which will bring up this new tab. We click the Underlays checkbox, and then that allows us to press this File Open button, which brings up a new window. We click the Load button, which allows us to go to the File Explorer and select an image. In this case, we're going to be working on an image of a microscope that I've pulled from the internet. We click OK, and you can see we've inserted a nice picture of a microscope that we can work with. Now the size here is arbitrary, and there are ways in this pane that you can resize it to match the extents that you want. But we're not going to worry about that right now for this demonstration. So to give an example of how you can do this kind of rapid prototyping now, let's use the Polyline tool in order to quickly approximate the shape of this object. Now, as you're doing so, make sure that you know which of your snap features is on, so that way you understand why the lines are or are not going in the direction that you expect them to. So you can see with this tool, we can quickly make the rough shape of this object. I'm going to turn off a couple of the snap features just to make this go a little bit more quickly. You see now in less than a minute, I have roughly extruded the shape of that microscope. Now, as you can see, I was being very fast and loose as I was doing this, because I was mostly just interested in quickly creating a shape to show you. But I want to show you guys one other interesting thing that you can do real quick. So now that we've created this object, I want to show you one other useful tool that you can use. In a previous lesson, you've learned about the subtraction feature, but I want to show you another use for that. Previously, you saw that you can use subtraction in three-dimensional space, but you can also use it in 2D space. So remember that little section of blank area that I intentionally left in this illustration? Well, by turning off this object for a moment, I can go in and trace out that area that I had intentionally left blank. Now that I can turn the other object back on, I can now click out of this feature so that way I don't have anything selected, and I can take the difference of these two. So I select that and then that. And now when I extrude this object, it'll give me that space that I removed as well. I could have just drawn that surface there on this three-dimensional object after I had made it and then extruded that out as a hole. But this way you can build objects with holes in them to begin with of known sizes. One other thing that I'd like to point out is As you saw in that reference plane earlier, you can manipulate the sizes of things to make it more accurate as you recreate it. But you can also use the nice measure tool here, the simple ruler that allows you to measure the extents of objects within this feature. Now, one thing I will note, however, is that when you're doing this, it's important to pay attention to what all snap features are active, so that way you know what you are or are not actually pressing. Because it's very easy that you might be trying to measure across this flat surface, but you might end up actually being measuring the diameter from one corner